Welcome to Mythical Phylogeny Adventures. I'm your guide Jason. I often say that horses are the most common of mythical creatures. So what is the second most common? Well, that would be the Serpent. And these include monsters like the Ceraste. The Ceraste comes from Greek and Egyptian mythology. Other variations are found elsewhere throughout African mythology. And its name comes from Ceraste, or to have horns. And that is the defining trait of this creature. It is a snake which has horns. Usually, it is said to have two curled horns like a ram, but some also say that it only has two small horns. Yet some sources do say that it can have up to 4 sets of horns. In particular, it is said to look like a viper and even has the same fangs. Pretty simple. Within Egyptian mythology, it has 2 origins. The first, where it sprang up from the blood of Ra, mostly from battles with Apophis. The second talks about a pharaoh calling upon the gods, which sent them from the Nile, which then slew the enemies of Egypt. Then with victory achieved, they returned to the Nile. And with it, a warning for the pharaoh about the balance between life and death. It is also mentioned in the writings of those like Pliny the Elder. In addition, even Leonardo da Vinci has written about it. And its Greek origins are a different story, and once more ties back to Medusa. As Perseus flew away after slaying Medusa, her blood dripped on the sands of Libya, and from there came the Ceraste. Yep, this thing could be said to be the sibling of Pegasus and Chrysaor. But Ceraste is a bit different. Namely, it's absolutely tiny! Only 20 inches, 50.8 centimeters long on the big side. Yep, we got ourselves a mythical snake monster, the size of a garter snake. What, you thought this thing was going to be the size of a basilisk? A snake that devours humans? Nope, not even close. Its main source of food is said to be birds. It hides in the sands of the desert with its horns exposed. And the birds will land, thinking it's an easy meal, maybe a corpse to pick over. That is when it springs forth and sinks its fangs into the prey, and with it, its venom. Yep, it's an ambush predator. It can spring forth with enough force to penetrate armor with its horns, though other stories speak about the horns being brittle and prone to breaking. Chainmail is obvious as to being pierced, but the fact that it can do it to plate is surprising. This means it can strike with the same force of power as a warhammer. Yep, it's impressive to be sure. It has one final ability, and this one is a bit different. While snakes are well known for their flexibility, this one is even more flexible. There are claims that it doesn't even have a spine. Normal snakes lack a sternum, but have a spine. It houses its spinal cord, and this is a critical structure. Damage to it can result in paralysis and even death. So we can't afford to let it get hurt. Now, I've seen several sources make the claim that it has cartilage in place of its bones. This isn't my theory, but it isn't a bad one. There are 3 kinds of cartilage: hyaline, fibrous, and elastic. Hyaline cartilage is what you find at your joints. It's smooth and provides for mobility. Fibrous or fibrocartilage is similar, but with less water present. But what you are probably most familiar with is the elastic cartilage. This is a more flexible version found in your ears and nose. So for the theory that its skeleton is made of cartilage, this last type would be the most important. This kind of cartilage wouldn't support a large body, but could potentially work for such a tiny little snake. So it's not the best, but it is a viable option. Though to be honest, the whole idea doesn't make too much sense. Snakes can already coil themselves into balls. There are even claims that it can survive being squashed completely. This would require increasing the elasticity throughout its entire body. Yet, it would always have a limit before it would break and cause irreparable damage. And that claim is rare. Now, there is another impact lacking a spine would have, and that would be its strength. If we would remove the vertebra, it would be more flexible, yes, but would lose muscle attachments for just about every muscle in the snake's body. So, all the muscles would need to be attached to the many ribs. This would likely reduce its strength heavily, and this means that it would be unable to kill using constriction. But there's good news. Well, not for its prey, but for me today, and maybe for you in the future. Snakes which rely on venom require speed over strength. That means they very rarely use constrictions. Yes, Ceraste is said to wrap itself around its prey. but that is to keep the burrows from flying away, not to kill it. So, it should be able to hunt without strength. Instead, it just needs speed. And that is something which all ambush predators rely on. Lastly, we have an issue with the horns. Horns are grown from hair, and reptiles don't have hair. So, it can't logically grow them. But there are kinds of vipers called the horned viper, which does have small horny protrusions on its head. And their arrows are made from modified scales, though these are short and not even close to the size described. So, we would only need to increase the size, which could come with time. In concept, this could be similar to the rattle tail of a rattlesnake. Oh, and there's one more interesting thing about this viper's name. Take a minute and guess. Well, it's Ceraste. Yep, this viper with horny protrusions is named after a mythical snake with horns. And there's more. It's the same size as our mythical snake, and guess where it lives? Northern Africa, including Libya and Egypt. Yep, this snake is likely the culprit to our mythical snake. Well, except for lacking a backbone, and having the power to puncture armor with its horns. But it's a pretty solid lead. All we need is make a few little changes to make it all work out. Lastly, we can suspect it is related to other serpents, like the Basilisk and Tsuchinoko, being a close branch on the phylogenetic tree, though further away than other snake monsters like Ajatar and Lemia. So, how would you battle the Ceraste? Well, it's a snake. That means we are dealing with a reptile, and that opens up a few things right away. They are not fond of cold temperatures, and will go dormant. That means cold spells are going to be useful. It has no other outstanding weaknesses, but fire and electrical magic will still be useful. Of course, spells to speak with animals is always good for animals. But we have other issues to address, and the first one is finding it. It hides in the sand with its horns exposed. So, while traveling through the desert, you'll need to keep an eye out for something protruding from the sand. But it's not going to be that big. It's only 20 inches long. And that means its head and its horns are going to be small too. So, good luck seeing it. Especially after traveling for hours under the hot sun. Yeah, it's going to be easy to miss. Its attack methods are well documented. It's an ambush predator, but it targets birds. For venomous snakes, it's energetically expensive to produce venom. So if it bites something it isn't going to eat, it will usually be a dry bite, and you won't be in danger. Oh, well, you might get an infection, so it needs to be cleansed. Use that with anti-venoms and purify magic, and you shouldn't be in trouble. In addition, keep the limb low and stay calm to prevent the poison from spreading through you. Yeah, I know that's a stupid request. You just got bitten by a snake. You are in pain and surprised. Just about any person would panic at the moment. After that, follow the standard precautions for snake bites. You can protect yourself from its fangs with armor. Chainmail is the worst here. Good gambeson or plate will stop the fangs. But it had a way to get through the armor, that is with its horns. It can jump with enough force to puncture any armor. Sadly, the texts aren't clear on the type of armor it can puncture. So let's go with the high end, and we'll say it can get through plate. Best to be overly cautious. A shield will work as a way to keep it off you, but you will need to be holding it down when it attacks. The first strike is all it will rely on, and that is all the time you will have to react. So, I'm not sure if you'll be able to pull it off. The best option is when it jumps at you, that you should jump sideways and get out of the line of fire. As for weapons, I would go with a swift sword. That would give you a long cutting edge, and reach to deal with a snake attack. A spear is also an option, but honestly a cane is going to be better. As a snake, it has a weak point where it can't bite you, and that is right behind the head. If you can grab it there, you are safe. Mind you, I would rather just stay away from it. You could use range if you want. A bow and arrow can bring it down, if you can find it. Remember, it's going to be hiding under the sand. So, I hope you have a high perception stat. If not, you won't be able to shoot an arrow. It shouldn't be deep enough under the sand that an arrow won't reach it. Of course, a spear would work too, but you have the same problem. Honestly, this is a pretty weak foe. It's a serpent, which isn't even 2 feet long. You could crush it under your boot. It's an ambush predator, which dedicates itself to its first strike, So long as you can survive that, you are good to win or just walk away. It's not like it will keep up with you. That is why I'm going to give it a 2 of 10 for difficulty. It's just a snake. A venomous one, mind you, but it's a snake. Something people deal with in our world. Well, this is a snake, and snake skin is valuable, so that is a boon. And snake meat is also edible. Lastly, we have its venom, which you could coat your weapon in. So there's that. And it will be needed to make an anti-venom. But ultimately, you'll be limited in what you can gain. This is a snake after all. The only thing unique here is its horns. If they were the usual horns, you could use them for drinking horns, such as a shot glass. But if it's just the modified scales, that wouldn't work. Potentially, it could be domesticated. There are several venomous snakes which can be, sort of, if defanged. But I'm not sure about the temperament of this particular snake, so it's a maybe. In addition, you could still use them as traps around a desert fortress. Of course, they aren't as reliable as a guard dog, so to speak. The Ceraste is a pretty simple mythical creature to be sure. It's a simple snake with horns. Its other traits are actually pretty common ones for snakes: venom and ambush attacks. Yeah, that describes half of all serpents. Overall, this is a much simpler mythical creature which does draw from a real animal. Thank you for watching, adventurers. Please return next time. Until then, I'll see you on the roads.